So there you go. Just a little ditty for my show. And welcome everybody. So I'm glad to be here. And yes, I saw one question. Where is Thalmor? Thalmor has decided that he wants to take a step back from doing this every week due to A, there's not a lot that goes on every week, and B, just general burnout. He's not as interested in doing this every week. It's gotten to be a bit much, and so he has stepped back. He is going to do this once every 2 weeks. His is next week on the 19th, and I have taken every Friday that he is not doing it. So yes, as long as you want to tune in, you'll get to see me here. And so that's going to be the itinerary for today. First off, yes, it's me. Some of you have seen me around. Some of you have no idea who I am. I expect a fair mix of that. Some of you hate my guts and some of you like me. I also expect a fair mix of that. And so, as I just mentioned, I'm going to be taking over every other week unless Thalmor decides he needs a bonus show like he did last week, and then he can upstage me and have the stage. I'm just here to, in general, for those of you that are going to want to know, what the hell is this going to be about? I am just going to be essentially much the same thing that he's done. Relay information, provide another viewpoint on topics, and generally go back and forth with everybody. I'll be here, again, every other week. There is a brief schedule up in announcements. You can scroll up a bit and catch that. And also, my general hope is that we'll get enough people on average, or at least enough people that have some relevance to drag somebody on stage, at least one person per week. I'm not certain if I'm going to be able to get somebody on today, but just in general, bring somebody on, have them talk. This way, you guys get to hear somebody other than just me. And that's about it. I will go ahead and after the show is over, I have a channel recordings will be going up on. And so I will go ahead and link that afterwards. You guys can check that out if you want to. And that really that summarizes it. So I'll be here every other week. Anytime Thalmor's not doing something, I'll be here. And yes, so let's hop right into the first thing here. Last week, we had politics and war. We had the anniversary gift, right? And that was, quite honestly, the most ironic thing I've seen Alex do in a while. Because money duplication is against the rules. And yet the entire anniversary gift was just that. It was just duplication of money. Yes, Spanky, I'm not sure if we have you to credit for that or not, but I will be getting to that later. So that was one thing. I don't know how many people sat there and did it. I don't know if Epi is still listening and you guys did that for Camelot, but I just sat there and said to everybody that was in my alliance, I was like, hey, if you guys want to go buy this gift, I'll throw money at you. You just redeposit it, buy the credit, buy the gift, and there you go. And I don't know if that was the strategy for other people, but that was absolutely the strategy for where I was at. Was if you're going to hand out free money, we are absolutely going to take advantage of it. So I would not be surprised to see the amount of money in circulation of the game rose dramatically. Oh, Clock was using it. Well, I'm not surprised. Anyone that had any brains at that point was going to do it. Yeah, I saw credits jumped from like 30 million to 60 million at one point. And the thing about that is, sure, that's a bit overpriced. But you're still making $20 million. So I'm glad for everyone that got to make a solid 30 million in profit. And what's that, Henry? So yes, that was just one thing I had to touch on because I found that incredibly ironic. The other thing I wanted to touch on was part of just how broken this game is. Um, Credits for a long time, and it's supposed to be fixed now, were literally. Thank you, Kegos. I appreciate it. I will absolutely get to that in a second. Credits were literally a waste of money. Because if you chose to pay for them, you didn't get it. You just gave Alex a free donation. I know he's patched that within the last week, or he's supposed to have patched that. Cataclysm. Kegos, when are you guys going to go sign Grumpy? That was supposed to happen soon, too. For those of you that don't know, Cataclysm just initiated the withdrawal from Clock. So, but yes, so free money for Alex and nothing in return for you was basically what credits were. And I saw Krampus, he posted this when Alex did the espionage odd calculations. He made it like $1,000 per thing. Assuming Krampus's math was correct, Alex intended to do this so that it would bankrupt anyone that tried to crash the game. If I remember correctly, you could spy calculate every single relevant person in the top 50 for $6 million in total. $6 million unless you've got C6s, as Krampus said. Unless you have C6s trying to break the game with mass requests, $6 million isn't going to kill anybody. So I thought that was just ironic. But those are all basic mechanic things. I know recently we did the ship stuff. I'll get to that later as well. One thing I did want to talk about was the peace. Celestial and Hollywood stopping their whaling. That was, I don't know how much longer on average people expected that to go for. I think once food prices started dropping, everyone was kind of aware that the war was over. But it was an interesting piece. Does anyone have the forum post, if they wouldn't mind pulling that up? It was an interesting piece because this war was basically the Last Ride 2.0. TKR did this before with the Syndicate when they hit Swamp, and Swamp was dissolving, and then shortly thereafter, Quack dissolved. And they just did it again with Hollywood. They hit Celestial, and then Hollywood dissolved with Grumpy, Guardian, Oblivion all jumping off ship, and then the Immortals also jumped off ship. So I don't know if that was intentional, because I found out a bit later on from a few people that everything was going to dissolve post-war. I don't know if that was the original intention from the outset, was another, just one last ride together, or if the intention came along a little later. But I find it interesting that's the second time in a row the Knights Radiant have dissolved their sphere upon a war. Is anyone else getting bad feedback from the mic, or is that just Michael Scott? Just you, Michael. Rest in peace. So the one thing that absolutely I needed to talk about were Penpico and, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, but that's fine. Don't expect perfect pronunciation from me. Hari, however you want to say it. It doesn't really matter. The two Hand of Fate members that decided upon the Dead Rabbits and the Way announcing their merge, they were going to go found the Alliance of Mordor and hold the name hostage. Now, I don't know if that's still ongoing, or if that has been purchased or dealt with, but that is the most brilliant stroke of genius I think we've seen in a while. It's still going on. Yeah, it was leaked. That was it. It was leaked. And so that was the most brilliant. Yeah, it's Penfico that's just sitting there holding it right now. For anyone that wants to go check it out, here's the Alliance link. The Way and the Dead Rabbits either need to retheme, buy it from Penfico, or there's really no other option because they've just had their Alliance name and the whole theme attached with it stolen. So that was very funny. I'm not sure. Does anyone have anything they'd like to go ahead and comment on regarding the whole way Dead Rabbits merge, or are we just meh? Meh. I figured. Okay. Yes, he is. He's the ex second in command of the way. So that was really something fun for him to have done to his old buddies. Uh, Two quick things that I just recognized that I think are absolutely relevant is for the first time in a while, or at least for the first time since I have been here that I know of, FARC is basically paperless. They have nobody but their Yarprot, and of course they're protecting Yar, not the other way around. So no, they don't really do anything, but they've always had somebody to cover their rear end. Um, so that's gone. They don't even have USN, and USN and them have been allies for a long time, from what I'm aware of. So I thought that was an interesting development. The other thing that I personally am okay with, because I have always had my gripes with them, is Sanctuary is also paperless. So those are two, Sanctuary and FARC. If we have any pirates listening, which I know we do, those are two very easy alliances to go have fun with. And yes, I think that summarizes what I just saw. I don't think we need to mention, yes, the leader of Hogwarts stepped down. Cost, or just better known to everybody, Seb, stepped up and he took leadership. He's left as well now. Somebody else is in charge. Yeah, well, Hogwarts rebranded. It was became the Odyssey, and then Seb took over, and then Seb left, and now somebody else is in there. So, they should really get their internals together, because that's a lot of leadership changes for an alliance within just a little bit of time, really. And let's see, what else do we have we want to talk about? So, public spies. Now, we've had, yes, Jon Snow, or his Poseidon is his rebrand. For my interactions, not the most subtle of FA people, but you take what you can get. Apparently, they internally decided it after Seb left, so don't know what the process was, and honestly, I don't think anyone cares. So, for his econ, do you know that he's the guy who scammed Gold Crown Investment Services, and also just recently seized like $1 billion plus of a Dead Rabbits investor? So I don't know if that econ respect is, unless it's like a pirate level econ respect, then I'm not entirely certain that's somebody you want to mess with. Um, but anyways, the mansion, haunted mansion, is decrepit. It is not just decrepit; it has been repossessed and destroyed. They fell apart very rapidly. After Polaris left, from what I am aware of, things, I know UPN went to back rooms at one point, that didn't go through, and so then this whole Oasis thing was proposed, and here they are. Well, not Oasis, it's technically Midgard, but in summary, Oasis 2.0. And so after Polaris left, there was a bit of internal disagreement, shall we say. And I'm glad to see that at least, people have gone their own ways. That was the thing, was I was kind of wondering where FARC, Sanctuary, Genesis, WTF, where they were going to get to go, because they're not really, nobody in that faction was really wanted. That's kind of why Haunted Mansion came to be, was because it was the sphere of outcasts. Yes, well, Ark, you're not in. Are you still part of the Federation or not anymore? I know you had a relation at one point. No, you're not. Yes, that parting discussion, let's call that discussion, between the Federation and UPN was really fun to look at. So much. Oh, I could say so much too, but it's, that you got to keep it to yourself. So yes, I'm glad to see, honestly, that all the alliances nobody wanted just got dumped, because I think it's been an open discussion for a while that there are two point of views. One is that if people really want to be in those pixel huggery alliances, they should be allowed to. They should, if they really want to be there, they should be allowed to be. But at the same time, it feels like such a waste of potential that those people could be in a competent place. So I'm glad in a way to see that, Sanctuary, FARC, WTF, Genesis, they're going to be out in the open where they have room to develop. They're going to be able to either grow up, get their act together, and get into a sphere, or they're not. And it's one thing or another. It's not going to be any halfway like what was with Haunted Mansion. And so I've got to give credit to everybody that was in Haunted Mansion for being willing to go their own way. The Federation has its little mini sphere, USSR itself, SOL, Soldiers of Liberty, for those of you that don't know that acronym. And UPN has its thing. Everybody's got their own thing. I can say, thankfully, that something has been achieved, right? It's not just a little more debris here and there. Something has been achieved. And so that's where Oasis 2.0 comes in. I want a 1 in the chat if you think Midgard is going to be useful or do anything relevant, and a 2 if you don't think, you think they're just going to be as useless as Haunted was. 1 for relevant, 2 for irrelevant. That's a lot of 2s. 3, I have no clue. Yeah, I don't think anybody does. I did find it interesting that the revival of Oasis left TFP out. That was fun. But yeah, so I'm not entirely confident in Oasis's abilities. I think nobody else really is here either. And the reasoning behind that is not necessarily because they're all bad alliances or anything of that sort, but simply because none of them have really, like, if you look at their strengths together, we haven't heard much out of Dark Brotherhood. We haven't heard much out of UPN. We haven't heard much out of Aurora. We haven't heard much out of TI, all in recent times. So if they become an FA active sphere, I'll give them that. They're going to become a little more relevant in wars and all of that. And if I go ahead, actually, and Ron has their tiering, which I did want to talk about, but I was going to do later. We'll just go ahead and do it now, because why not? There is a tiering somewhere that was announced. Here it is. I'm going to go ahead and drop this here for everybody. And Krampus had his own personal power rankings off of that tiering. And I'm going to read this to you, and you guys can tell me, bye-bye, can we not talk about this right now? Thank you. Yeah, no, I was going to prefer a graph, but I didn't see or not a graph, like a numbers chart, Pen Pico, but I didn't find one, so. Krampus's arbitrary sphere power rankings had Celestial. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Had a Celestial as top dog, Clock is second, although now that Cataclysm's leaving, that's probably going to change. Midgard in third, a toss-up between TKR and the Backrooms, and then Johnson's in last. Now, I think numerically, third is a pretty good number for Midgard. Although I'm going to look at this and see before I open my mouth on that. Yeah, so they're not terrible. They have actually the most nations in total. And they've got their tiering isn't terrible either. The question is, do they have any military competence? Have the Immortals gained anything from their time with the Knights Radiant? Do they have a semi-decent Milcom now? Is UPN willing to deal with military strategy and military changes when they've been able to sit quietly and haunted for so long? What about the Dark Brotherhood? Johnson's hasn't done anything since they just ruled haunted recently, and same for Aurora. Like, where is we'll have to see in a war, but just because they have the numbers doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be able to use them properly. So we will see. I have to say, if there is a good, solid sphere leadership present and they know how to wield their tiering, I could absolutely see Midgard becoming a pretty top level sphere. Whether they could challenge Celestial, that I don't know if anyone can challenge Celestial right now. Look at that. That C30 dominance is just, it's insane. Even Grumpy's, it's yes, but their whales aren't gonna, unless they demail all their whales, they stand a chance. Just because Celestial isn't the greatest militarily doesn't mean they don't know how to throw whales at people. They've had to deal with it from Grumpy for how long? They should have picked something up from that. Well, Grumpy single-handedly still dominates C40s. Let's not mistake that one, okay? Grumpy still single-handedly is near basically double Celestial's C40 plus. So, while yes, their C30 area tier isn't that great. And hey, if Celestial was willing to suicide, could they probably tackle some of Grumpy's C40? That C40 is pretty unmatchable. So don't go wrong there. Now, let's go ahead and throw this one out there. Hollywood has, for lack of a better term, they've gone broke. They've all decided to sell off their stock and liquidate. How many people think, 1 for yes, 2 for no, within the next month, there are going to be major new changes to TKR and GGO? Like, for instance, Kigaw's Cataclysm signing GGO. Two. Okay. So that's one thing I do want to jump on is I am now very curious where Cataclysm has decided they're going to head off to. They might go paperless. They'd have to. If you guys do sincerely go paperless, Kigaws, I expect a 1v1 with Camelot for the title of Premier Paperless Alliance. You've got to claim that yourself. You have to claim that. Camelot has owned that for so long. You can't just walk out and claim it. Oh, you conceded it? Okay, well, no fight then. That's a shame. TFP isn't even paperless. Why are you going to roll TFP? Why not? Well, that's a good point. Why not? TFP, to answer Penpico, they have their prot, they have the elites, and that's just about it. The elites have a couple alliances tied onto them, but nobody top 50. And TFP has a bajillion protectorates. They have a couple M levels, but basically, aside from one treaty, paperless. So Paradise jumped ship to TKR. I thought that was interesting. I honestly think that, oh, wouldn't that would be amazing? Yes, do that. I would love to see that somehow work out. TFP, Camelot, Cataclysm. What's your sphere name for that one? Dog shit. Yeah, that's a good one. So TKR has taken on another protectorate. They've got Paradise and FSO now. Um, Hopefully, that's one thing we haven't spoken about. Nobody's spoken about the Federated States of Orbis in ages, for good reason. Hopefully, they're getting some training over there. So, here's the big one: militarization. Now, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Cataclysm's militarization start this entire thing? Clocks. So just clock in general. Okay. Eclipse and Cat. Well, you guys are really the only people in clock, so that makes sense. Yeah, Eclipse and Cataclysm. So I guess. Well, yeah, Cataclysms make sense, particularly if they're actually going to go paperless. I'll believe that when I see it, but if they actually do go paperless, that their militarization makes sense. And I guess Eclipses makes a little bit. So interesting. So maybe everybody just militarized for no reason. Well, that's the thing, Toxic. If they started the MMR levels, they might just militarize fully and then go paperless for a while. Um, so here's the other thing. Well, that Hawksbane, that's basically what Rose's was. If you want to take a look at theirs. So I don't know if Chad's been keeping up with dropping things in the leaked logs. But the last one, two, three, four, five. The last five messages in leaks and rumors for Royal Orbis News have just been straight Rose announcements. So one of those, if you want to go ahead and look at to refer to that, the militarization is basically militarized because everyone else is militarizing. Yeah, Spanky, was that you? Did you do that? I wouldn't be surprised if you did. It was? Okay. Will we continue to see the entire Rose announcement channel for a while? It's always well, Spanky. It's smart of him to claim credit, even if he's not the one that actually did it. It's just good business sense. So, kind of confused why Rose banned you. Well, you have a bannable face, Chad. Ships got that ship update got sent out for anyone that cares. I don't think most people do. It just makes everything a little bit cheaper. Honestly, not by any crazy amount whatsoever. But hey, it makes things a little less expensive. It is a nice save. Maybe everyone can go get military salvage with it. And yes, Rose is falling apart all over the place. The other thing, so Celestial is now the entire reason Celestial formed, right? From what we were all told, was to combat the whale monopoly, right? Does anyone, if anyone here is from, it's not what did they say? I want to be factually accurate on this. What was the precise reasoning for why that huge thing formed? To make the alliances more competitive. Okay. Well, if we go all the way back up to whatever, to that sphere division that Penpico posted, thank you again for that. That's going to become my most cherished possession. I don't see how that's competitive anymore. Now, granted, depending upon what Clock does and what Eclipse does, because I don't see Eclipse just sitting there with a tie to Weebinism, that doesn't seem like an Eclipse move, it might make things competitive if Eclipse decides to jump on to TKR or GGO, or if Kata does the same, either the same. But the only person they're semi-competitive with would be Midgard. Right? I'm not missing anybody else. So, unless the new threat is Midgard, and maybe it is, wouldn't that be crazy? No, Kata's not joining Midgard. Why would Kata join Midgard? Unless Midgard is the new threat that Celestial must exist for to equalize the playing field, there's little reason for them to be. Well, that's the thing, is I'm wondering, do we have anybody here that's Penpico? Are you still technically part of Hand of Fate? Or do we have anybody here that is part of Hand of Fate? You're still part of, okay. So you should go, anyone from Hand of Fate should go stir up trouble and get your leaders to organize a raid on Oasis 2.0. And let's see if they do the same thing that Haunted Mansion and the Johnsons did and basically fold, then even though their nation count is basically the same thing as Celestials, we know that they're just, they're nothing to be concerned about. And if by some measure they actually do reasonably well, reasonably as in they don't get utterly destroyed, then I think we can say, based off of Celestial's military competence, that's a pretty fair matchup. So, absolutely, I would love to see some test for our new sphere. See how good they are. Maybe they can 1v1 TKR. That'd be fun. Have TKR sphere hit Midgard or vice versa. See how that one goes. Somebody will cry at the dog pile. So, that sums that one up. I think Celestial is pretty rock solid unless you get like a in a 1v1. In a multi-sphere war, which now we have I hesitate to say 8 spheres. I know somebody somewhere said 8 spheres. I hesitate to call it 8 spheres because is the Johnsons really a sphere? TFP and the Elites together. Like, I would think a sphere, yeah, it's an idea. That's a good term for it. It's an idea. So I would say the Federation, Soldiers of Liberty, and USSR together, that's the second idea. So we have 6 spheres, although Clock is dissolving, so we'll see about that. 5 technically. And 2 ideas. So maybe a sphere and an idea would be enough to take on Celestial. I don't know. We'll have to see. The Johnsons is not a sphere, it's a people and a purpose. That is true. That is true. The only spheres we have to fear are spheres themselves. Potentially. Particularly if you're a Minecraft player. So that about summarizes really the the news week, or the last 2 weeks, actually, there's not been a crazy lot to talk about. I would hesitate. I mean, I could go more in depth on what's happened last week and what I think is going to happen in the future. But Thalmor covered a lot of it, and I know most of you don't want to hear that a second time round. So instead, we will talk for a few minutes on just general schizo talk on where Cataclysm and Eclipse are going to go. I want to hear suggestions. Where do you guys think they're going to go? Does anybody actually believe Cataclysm's going to stay paperless? Do we think they're going to join somewhere? And my prediction would be Eclipse is going to go join somebody, and they might drop Weebinism. I don't know. They're going to hit TKR and then join someone. Cataclysm. Interesting. GG. Yeah, that's what I've heard too, Ark. I would love to see that. That's what I've heard is I'll go ahead and throw the secret intel out there. I don't know what's going to happen to Weebinism, but I've heard Eclipse signs TKR and Cataclysm signs GGO. Paperless would be the most exciting, but we've learned a long time ago, I think, to never assume that alliances will do the most exciting thing, not when there's something that's in their better interest. So, and honestly, how many of you, I want to put this out here because I don't think it actually bothers as many of you as it does, but let's take a brief poll. How many of you would actually be bothered if, like, in this mini sphere environment, people did sphere to sphere negotiations like, oh, let's do a 1 month non-aggression pact, or oh, hey, let's go hit so and so? How many of you would actually be bothered by that if it was public? Not secret treaties like what Tyrion did in the past with Oasis, but publicly out there, this is why we're doing it, and we're doing it. How many of you would genuinely dislike that? 1, if you would hate on it. 2, if you wouldn't. 1.5. Huh. Well, thank you to the 3 people who cared enough to type something. Oh, there we go. We got more. 1.7. So you're leaning more towards not. Okay. Two tiny spheres working against a big one. So our 2 ideas versus the Knights Radiant. But if it's 2 big spheres, well, yeah. And I'm not talking permanent signing. I wouldn't at all want to see something where, like, Rose signs with Midgard, here's our MDP, and so now it's the entire game versus them or nothing else. But something like, who knows, Midgard signs something with the Federation or TFP, and they're like, let's go hit Celestial. Or the Backrooms in TKR decide, let's go hit Midgard. Not that you would need that much firepower to go take out Midgard, but as a rep for Midgard, oh yes, go ahead, Toxic. You would not say, well, I'm not saying you'd have to, but I'm just throwing out ideas. No, I'm ignoring all the mini politics that play into that. So, on the other hand, does anyone want to come on out and talk about what has been said today between Haunted Mansion falling apart, although that's not really necessarily relevant, but I don't know, Kigaz, you want to say something? Toxic, do you want to say something for Midgard? I'm going to delete that one. Thank you. Bye-bye. Falmore is in the Inferno. Yes, he is. He is gone. So, yes, sorry. Did the FBI raid Falmore too? No. So for anyone that missed it, Falmore is doing bi-weekly shows. I don't think Change Up's listening. I'll go ahead and take a look. $20 he's not. Yep. So I would explain, but he's not going to listen. So we're good. For those of you that have somehow missed it, Falmore is doing bi-weekly shows. Yes, Falmore Radio is by now. And Kiwi. Yes, Falmore is doing a show every 2 weeks. His next show is on the 19th. The week after that is mine, and the week after that is his, and so on and so forth. This is not an alternating Falmore Radio thing either. We are two separate shows, two separate individuals. He has decided, as I said, he wants to do things once every 2 weeks. It's just easier on him. Can you get a pin for all those emails? You know what? Yes, you can. I'll award it to you. He doesn't he doesn't feel that it warrants a show every week. Now granted, if something happens, like all the stuff that you guys just had to do yesterday or not yesterday, last week on Friday that got me upstaged, if all that happens, he'll absolutely come on and he'll either host his show, or if it's not that major, but he still wants to comment on it, we can even talk. He might even pop on here. So it's on a case by case basis. And of course, if something happens throughout the week, if 2 days from now, Cataclysm starts launching nukes at TKR, he might do a bonus show. But that's his own thing. So we are not the same group. I have my show. I just decided, hey, Thalmore's going to take every other week off. I already have time basically every week to listen to Thalmore Radio. I've been bugged by a few people. They want to hear me talk. So here I am. I'm just going to fill in for those spots that Falmore would have been here, but since he's doing his bi-weekly show, he's not. Long-winded explanation I wasn't going to give, but I did. And that about sums up everything for tonight. I just got put on Ron. Did I? Oh, I did. Good. Okay. Oh, it's just an alliance leak. Purges happen. Great show. Looking for. Well, I appreciate that, Toxic. Thank you. I hope most people felt the same. And hopefully, I'm just hoping I have a little more to talk about next time. If anyone wants to come on, I'll do a last call. I'll take anyone who has relevant information or just a relevant comment that they want to pop on. Otherwise, I don't think there's anything else that I care to make. Yes, getting leaked live on air. Well, this is what happens during a purge, Chad. People get upset, people get angry, and they start leaking things. I need to go more Stalin on everybody. So I'm going to assume nobody has anything else they would like to add in. Is there anything I've missed? Any questions that was part of the itinerary? Anything you want to talk about that I didn't talk about for politics and war, or anything just in general for the show? Go ahead, Tomato. Rant about anything OPSEC. Well, you want a screenshot of my Alliance Bank? Not the Coven, just mine. It's about as big as an average micro. Not as average micro, but okay. Ark wants me to do it. Here we go. For those of you that'll be watching this in the recording, if I ever get anyone doing that, my sincere apologies. This is going to pop up a bit differently in the recording, but the people have requested what the people have requested, and who am I to demand to offer them otherwise? So, okay, and let's see now if I can. Oh, I can. Good. Awesome. All right. Ready? Here she blows. Not much. Most of it's already been sent out, but not nearly enough to warrant a raid. Fake? No, it's not fake, actually. Ask CCT. He has all my money. I gave it to him for free. You don't have to believe me on that, but he's the one that has all my dough. So I'm not. Whoops. No, Henry, I've had enough of your visits. Okay. Thank you. You can go keep bothering Kills. Honestly, it's okay. He loves you more. So that's about it for tonight. Does anyone have any questions regarding the show? I think I've over-explained everything as it is, but any questions? What's string theory? Oh, I actually know this one. That's a physics theory. I've actually studied this before. I'm glad you brought that up, Kiwi. It's a so the scientific definition of it is a theoretical framework about one-dimensional objects called strings. Oh, Schrodinger's cat. So I'm not going to genuinely go into this because I don't think most of you want to hear about it. No, it's that everything is made up by strings. And so how these strings interact with each other through space and whatnot. That's actually what forms quarks, which build atoms, which build molecules, which build everything else. I wish Zig was here. He could probably explain it better than I could. No, a different type of string. But there are other ideas out there about how frequencies interact and all that. It's a fun thing. You guys should look it up. Schrodinger's cat. Yes, so that's, the cat in a box is both dead and alive until you open the box, and then it's. That's a basic quantum physics logic. So, quantum physics is an amazing thing. You guys should really look it up. It's a lot of fun to do. That sums it up. I think all of you ladies and gentlemen, what do I think of Thalmore's Bank? Oh, that's a good question, actually. I'm not going to end the show then. Yes. Thalmore doing a bank. I think Elegos is a criminal for pushing him into doing it. But at the same time, I think Thalmore doing a bank would be the most hilarious thing I've ever gotten to witness. And I absolutely want it to happen. It very well could, because I would be there to advise him the whole way through. And the best piece of advice you can open, first off, is do not allow public investors. They demand everything and offer you nothing. You choose your investors wisely. Well, see, that's the other thing. Here's the bit. Bye-bye, can you not? I really would appreciate if you could not. All banks are in the long run scams. For one reason not all banks then, yes, I'll give that credit to CCT. Certain banks are not. Most public banks are in the long run for a very simple reason. It is impossible in politics and war with zero oversight from anybody on loans to avoid a default. In the long run, talking 6 months to a year, if you are actively loaning, it is nearly impossible. And so when it's nearly impossible, somebody makes a bad decision somewhere and everybody loses money. The whole thing about banks is they're really good at the start, because 9 times out of 10, a micro bank is opened by a trader who has absolutely no idea how to do a bank. And they, for some reason, this is a chronic issue within the business world, is that traders will, at random, just say, hey, thanks, it was great working for you. I'm going to go open my own bank. No idea how to run it. They just know how to trade, but they'll go open their own bank and screw you over. And just saying, just close all banks. I'm not going to go down that road just yet. But they'll go open their stuff and they'll make profit because they'll trade. They'll trade the funds. So if you buy in, you wait until there's been 1 or 2 rounds of dividends while they're still trading the funds and people haven't defaulted on the loans yet, and then you sell off to somebody else. Banks are profitable. Holding in the long run on a bank like that is asking to lose every dime you've ever seen or you've ever touched, because just it's impossible for them, without any basic understanding having gone in, to properly take care of the business. And that's been the thing, is you have to set up in this game everything perfectly down to the very last half cent, because if you don't, down the road, every little mistake you've ever made when you were setting that up, or you've made while you were doing something, comes back and bites you. Casinos aren't bad. It's just the issue with a casino is it's unpredictable, right? If you have somebody win big, you lose a lot of money. And if you rig it, I mean, absolutely, you're going to make... Well, see, Kiwi, the thing on that is a lot of the bots used, the only thing you can rig is like the one game that nobody ever plays. Nobody with a brain. Most people will just play roulette until they win. So that or blackjack, but blackjack you can only rig to a slight extent depending upon the bot you have. So you do not have better odds with Keno. But so you have better odds of getting paid out with Keno, particularly if you're actually going to win like $50 million. But you have a better chance to win like roulette or blackjack. It's just actually getting the money. Well, good luck. So that's going to wrap it up tonight. I think that is about all that needs to be spoken about. I'm glad that a number of you enjoyed listening to my blather tonight, and I look forward to talking to all of you in a couple weeks. If you want to bring somebody, absolutely bring somebody that will talk. I am more than happy to have somebody on to talk at any time. If they've got an opinion they want to share, I'd love to give them a platform to share it. And with that, you all get to enjoy one last time your spa music. You have it rose. Well, yes, that's an opinion, and that's a relevant opinion, but I'm looking for a little more substance than that. Here you go. Here's your spa music one last time. Good night, everybody. And to answer Kiwi's question, I will always theme song one last time to close out the show, and I will wish you all a very good evening, at least because that's what it is for me, and I don't care about your time zones. So, good evening, and have a good night.